So today we're going to be talking about how we would use logs to solve for n. Okay. The reason why we have to use logs is because we are solving for an exponent in a situation where it is not possible for us to make the bases the same. Normally, if we solve an exponential equation, we would be given something like this. So let's say we've got 3 to the power of x equals 81. What we would usually do is we would write the number using the base on the left. So I would write 81 as 3 to the power of 4. On the left-hand side, I'd keep my 3 to the power of x. And then the rule is after I have equated the bases, I can equate the exponents. That's how you would usually solve an exponential equation. Okay, so equate the bases, and then you can equate the exponents. What happens, though, if you have an equation like this? So you've got 2 to the power of x equals 7. We can't use the method on the left-hand side because it's not possible to write 7 with base 2. And this is where logs were invented in order to help us be able to solve this problem. So the rule works like this. If you remember from your inverse functions, if you want to solve for x, your exponent, it is the log of your base, and then you're going to pop in your number. Okay, so if you see, or not if you look at your calculator in the very top row on the right-hand side, you will see a button. So it's like that. It says log, and then the block down here where the base goes, that's colored in. And then the number part is an open block like that. Can everybody locate that button on their calculator? Are we all good? Can we find it? Yes, we know where it is. Cool beans. So it's very easy. We just use this button every single time. All right. So instead of Lesejo, no. Okay. Lesejo, what sort of calculator are you using? Using a Sharp or a Casio? Casio. Okay. So if you look at your Casio, you'll see underneath the screen, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blue buttons. The blue button that's on the far right-hand side is your on button. Look directly below that, directly below your on button. Yeah, it is below setup, just to the right. Found it now? Cool. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to write the step where we show that we're using logs. So to solve for x in this case, we would say x equals log. Our base is what goes in there. Okay, so the base goes there and our number goes over here. So our base is 2 and our number is 7. So press that button, put in the 2, the base 2, go over and put in the 7 and press equals. And hopefully you're all seeing 2,807,354, etc., etc., etc. There we go. Lovely, Mamelo and Lebogang. Good. So we can round x off to 2 decimal places, 2,81. Okay, so that part is relatively simple. Okay, what makes it more difficult, obviously, is when we have to read through piles and piles of information and decide exactly what it is that they are asking us. Okay, but this is what this lesson is all about. So any financial maths formula that has n as an exponent, you can use logs to solve for n. Okay, so we can use it with future value and present value, but we can also use it with our grade 11 formulae. So for example, let's just pull this down here. We can also use it in compound interest to solve for n. And we can also use it in reducing balance depreciation to solve for n. Okay, so it's those two formulae and future value and present value, okay, where they could ask you to solve for n as the exponent. Okay, so let's go and have a look at the first example. Right, so it says to us, Matthew deposits 4,000 Rand in a savings account, paying 10% per annum compounded annually. How long will it take for the savings to double? Okay, so the words to double are really important here because they're telling us how to calculate the end value, the A value, without actually giving us our A value. All right. So we realize that it's compound interest because the question says there was a deposit of a certain amount of money, 10% per annum compounded annually. Okay. So what is the value of A in this case? Matrix. What's A going to be? We're using A equals P1 plus I to the power of N. What's the value of A? Lovely, Lesejo. Okay, so the savings doubles. It's going to be 8,000 Rand in the end. Initially, it's 4,000 Rand. That's what Matthew puts in. Okay, good. Yes. Our interest rate, very simple in this case. They haven't even changed the compounding period. They're just saying 10% per annum compounded annually. So our interest rate is going to be 0.10. All right, so we're going to come along and we are going to sub into our formula. So we would write 8,000 equals 4,000 1 plus 0.10 to the power of n. Okay. What is inside the bracket is going to end up being your base, the base of your exponent. Okay. When we simplify P and A, that's going to give us our number. What do you think the first thing is that we need to do to both sides of our equation? Because we don't want this 4,000 here. We want to isolate the base. So what do you think we need to do exactly? Well done, everybody. We need to divide by 4,000 on both sides, first of all. Okay, and when we do that, we can see that we would end up with 8 over 4. 8 over 4 would leave us with 2. So we're going to write it as simply as we possibly can. If we add 1 to our 0.10, it means that our base is going to become 1.1 to the power of n. Okay, so no, Lebogang, it's divided by 100 because it's 10%. So that's 10 divided by 100. Per annum compounded annually means that it's divided by 1. If it was 10% per annum compounded monthly, it would be 0.1 divided by 12. If it was 10% per annum compounded quarterly, it would be 0.1 divided by 4, for example. Okay, so because it's compounded annually, it's actually being divided by 1. Okay, so you've got to divide by 100 and then also by whatever they've changed the compounding period to. All right, so now it's super easy. We've got our base, we've got our number. So now we can use logs to solve for n. All right, so we would write n equals log, our base is 1, 1, our number is 2. Pop it into our calculator using that button that I showed you. Whoopsie daisy, I did the wrong thing there. And you guys can tell me what you're getting as an answer. There we go, Mamelo. There we go, Owami. Lovely. Good. Well done. Yes, Yamkela and Leseho. Good job. Yes. Good, 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 good. Mikhail, Andamiso, Botomelo. Lovely. Okay, so that would be 7,27. So it would take 7,27 years in order for Matthew's deposit of 4,000 Rand to grow into 8,000 Rand. Okay, and that means he obviously didn't make any other deposits or withdrawals from that account, right? Which isn't very much like real life at all. But anyway, that's just our first example. Okay, yes, Gugu, you have a hand up. You want to ask a question?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, Gugu.
Ma'am, so what happens if we don't cancel the zeros?
Absolutely nothing. But then you're just going to end up with 8,000 over 4,000. So if you want to work with 8,000 over 4,000, you can, or 8 over 4. It's up to you. It just makes your life easier to simplify those numbers. Okay, you're going to see sometimes, Gugu, you're going to end up with fractions that can't really be simplified. Sometimes the number ends up being some weird fraction like 1019 over 1,000 or whatever the case is. And then you can't. You've just got to work with it as it is. In this case, we were just lucky that we had 8,000 over 4,000 and it's simplified to 2. Okay, so just whatever you do, don't round off. You only ever round off at the very, very end. Okay, so whatever decimal places you've got to keep until the very end. That's the only rule. Okay, who else has got a hand up? Lebogang. Yes, go for it, Lebogang.
Oh, ma'am, can I ask, is the 27 years the month? The 27 is the month?
No. So if you want to get the number of months, if they say that you need to give the answer in years and months, this is what you would do, okay? So you've got this 7,27. Let me just write it out. 2540897. You got that on your calculator, right? What you want to do is you want to get rid of the units. So you're going to subtract 7. That means that you're only left with the decimal. So 0,272540897. And then you take that number and you multiply it by 12 because there are 12 months in a year. And what you'll see in this case is that it's pretty close to 3 months. Yeah, it's 3.27 months. So we would say here 7 years and 3 months. Okay. In exams, they're not going to ask you to round your answer or work out your answer in years and months. Maybe they'll do that to you in a class test or a control test that your school is writing, but no exam, no trials exam, no end of year exam is going to ask you to do that. All right, so your answer to 2 decimal places should always be acceptable. All right, let's just go back and have a look here. Okay, so I've explained now how you would do that. No, so we would leave the answer like that into causal. Correct. Sorry, guys. Excuse me. To 2 decimal places. Yes, Mamelo. So whatever if you've got units and tens, then you would get rid of your units and tens. You just want the values, the numbers that are left on the right-hand side of your decimal. Those are the ones that you would use to calculate the months. Okay, anything to the left of that would be the years. So in this case, it's 7 years. In your example, that would be 14 years. Okay, sure, Njubula, I'll scroll back. There's the question. So you can screenshot. Unfortunately, I haven't got the answer on the screen at the same time, but I can move it down. Yes, Gugu, you want to ask a question? I don't know if that was your hand that was up from earlier. Okay, then there's someone PC. Do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, ma'am. Ma'am, I wanted to ask,
Mm.
in financial maths, aren't we supposed to always round up like the number of years? Like after we got 7,27, we're not supposed to round up. Like just to get
Mm.
the one number.
No, you see, I think what you're doing now is you're getting confused with calculations that take place later on. So, for example, let's say you are working with future value or present value formula, and they ask you to calculate the number of payments required to, let's say, pay off a loan or something. So, in other words, you're working with present value, okay? Then you would have to round up. Okay, because n represents the number of payments. So if you got an answer like 7,27, there would be 8 payments required to pay off the loan. We're not doing the same thing here. Okay, so this is just very basic compound interest where n actually represents essentially the number of times the interest is compounded. It's not the number of payments. Okay, so I think that's what you're thinking about. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Right, let's have a look. Okay, cool. But yeah, I think that's what you're thinking about is how many payments required to pay off a loan. Then you would have to round up. Okay. All right, let's have a look at the next thing. A motor car costing 200,000 Rand depreciated at a rate of 8% per annum on the reducing balance method. Calculate how long it took for the car to depreciate to a value of 90,000 Rand under these conditions. So straight away, the keywords reducing balance method tell us which formula we need to use. So if we go back and go and have a look, where are our formulae? There they are over there. Let's just bring that down here. All right. We've got to make sure every single time that we use the correct formula. We've got to sub into the correct formula. If we don't sub into the correct formula, we're not going to get any marks. So we can see there reducing balance depreciation. Make sure you can recognize it. Okay, so it's this one over here. A equals P 1 minus I to the power of N. We spent quite a lot of time last week on Thursday talking about that particular formula. So I'm just going to stick it on the side here and write it in for you. All right, so we're using A equals P 1 minus I to the power of N. Okay, so the car costs 200,000 Rand. It depreciates to 90,000 Rand. So what's the A and what's the P in this case? Remember, we are talking about depreciation. Okay, so Ayanda says that A is your 90,000. Good, Ayanda, because that is what the car is going to be worth. That's it. Good. Good, 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 good. Okay, so the car will be worth 90,000 Rand at the end. It starts off initially being worth 200,000 Rand. So remember, with depreciation, all right, your A value is smaller than your P. With compound interest, your A value is bigger than your P. Okay, I don't know if you remember us discussing that last week, but we certainly did. All right, so if you mix those two up, you're going to get some weird and crazy answers, and things aren't going to work out too nicely. So it's very important we have that right. And it's 8% per annum. When we are talking about reducing balance, it does not compound more frequently than once a year. I don't know if you remember me saying that last time as well, but we don't change the compounding period on depreciation. That's because things that we buy would be worth very, very little if their value, or if the compounding period was more frequent than once a year. Okay, so that's why it's only once a year. Okay, all right, so subbing into the correct formula, we end up with 90,000 equals 200,000, 1 minus your interest rate, 0.08. Now, that's another thing that you need to be careful of. When you've got an interest rate that is less than 10%, remember you're going to have an extra 0 in front of your number. Okay, so 0.08, not 0.8, right? Because then you're also going to end up with strange answers. So now we would divide both sides. Remember, we want to isolate the base. We want to isolate the brackets. That's our base. So again, we are going to divide by 200,000 on both sides. And you really don't have to show this step, but I'm just putting it in here for you. Okay, so now when we do this, we can knock 4 zeros off there, and we can knock 4 zeros off there. So I'm left with 9/20. So you see now, Gugu, I don't have a nice number like 2. I've got 9/20, okay, which you can write as a decimal, or you can write it as 9/20. It doesn't matter. Okay, on the right-hand side, our brackets, 1 minus 0.08. That means the value of our bracket. Again, it's a bit of a weird number. It's 23/25. Now, again, if you want to write that as a decimal, you are more than welcome. If you write it as a normal fraction like I've done, that's also fine. Okay, you just don't round off whatever you do. If you're writing it as a decimal, you must keep all the decimal places. Okay, and then again, we would say time, or n, is equal to log of our base, and then we're going to put in our number. Okay, just like that. And we must show this step as well. Okay, what are you guys getting as an answer? There we go, 9.58, 9.57. So just be careful. It's 9.58. All right, you've got to look at the third decimal place to tell you how to round to 2 decimal places. Okay, so 9.58 is perfect. Okay, so 9.58 years for the car to depreciate from 200,000 to 90,000 at an interest rate of 8%. Okay, math error. Njabulo? All right, are you using that same button we spoke about earlier? This is what you're putting into the button on your calculator. You shouldn't be getting a math error. The other thing that you can do if your Casio is doing weird stuff is you can clear it. So if you press Shift and then you press 9, so Shift 9, then you press 3 equals, and then you press the AC button, and that will reset your calculator. Often a good idea to do this before working with financial maths, and definitely before trig. Okay. Kumo, yes. I mean, look, the thing is that if it's not, let's say now it's the end of the year, all right, and they said to us, this was now a question in an exam. In fact, I'll show you an exam question. I'm going to do one with you this lesson. I'll show you it to you. I think there would be some leniency with that, because normally what they do is they only penalize once on rounding. And the question that they penalize on rounding is your question in paper 1, in question 1, where they ask you to use the quadratic formula. That's the only place in the paper where they will penalize you for rounding. So if you wrote 9,57 and Gugu wrote 9,58, your examiner should mark both of them correct. Okay, I mean, if you're wildly wrong, then obviously not. But I mean, if you're just out by 9,57 as opposed to 9,58, they'll still give you the marks for that. Okay. So I hope that answers that question. Tuelo, I just see you've asked me a question as well. Let me just read this. Okay, so Tuelo, you've got to read the question carefully. Here, can you see I underlined the words reducing balance method? That's how you knew which formula to pick. Okay, in the question above, they didn't talk about reducing balance. They weren't talking about a car depreciating. They were talking about Matthew depositing 4,000 Rand into a savings account, paying 10% per annum compounded annually. So the words, all of those words, the fact that it's a savings, that it is compounded annually, that's your clue that you've got to use compound interest. Okay, so yes, it is tough because your English actually needs to be quite good. You need to be able to read the question and based on the information provided, decide which formula you've got to use. Okay. So question A was compound. Yes, that was compound interest. Quite right. And question 2 is reducing balance depreciation. Okay, it's a pleasure. No problem. Okay, here's another one on reducing balance depreciation. I don't know if you guys would like to try this question quickly on your own and just see how it goes. I'll put the formula here for you because we've just spoken about it. So reducing balance depreciation, A equals P, 1 minus I to the n. Let's see if you can work out how long it took for the computers to depreciate to 30,000 Rand. And then you can either DM me or Yolanda. Thanks to Luciwe, I've got your answer. Anybody else got an answer yet? Excuse me. There we go. Well done, everybody. All the answers I'm seeing so far are all correct. Okay. Ooh, Zuko, you should definitely not be getting a negative. Ooh, okay. Okay. Lesejo and Lizuko, you are both sending me negative answers, which cannot be. Maybe what you did is you modeled up your P and A values. Okay, so just very quickly, remember we are working with reducing balance depreciation. Okay, so if that is indeed the case, then our A value is smaller than our P. So we should have said 30,000 equals 70,000, 1 minus 0.12 to the n. So when we divide both sides by 70,000, we actually end up with 3 over 7 is equal to 1 minus 0.12 leaves us with 22 over 25 to the n. So n equals log 22 over 25, 3 over 7. And then you'll get the answers that a lot of the others are popping into the chat. Yes, there we go. Good. Yes, 6,63. There you go. Well done. That's it on Waba. All right. Well done, everybody. Okay, so let's go on and have a look at some other kinds of questions. Cool, Lazuka. I'm glad you can see your mistake. That's so important in maths to be able to see where we've gone wrong. Now, obviously, we can't, n can't be a negative in this case because we're talking about time. Okay, so time can't be negative. All right, so Simone opens an account at a local clothing store. She spends 5,000 Rand. The interest rate charged is 24% per annum compounded monthly. How long will it take her to owe 8,000 Rand if she makes no prior repayments on the account? Now, who was it in the chat that was asking me, how do you know? Tuelo, okay? Like, look at this question now, Tuelo. So they're talking about a clothing store account. This woman spends 5,000 Rand. The interest rate is 24% per annum compounded monthly. How long will it take her to owe 8,000 Rand if she makes no prior repayments on her account? Which formula do you think they're implying you should use? Which formula do you think they want you to use for this question? Yeah, compound interest. Exactly. They want you to use compound interest. Okay, so the only time that you would use future value or present value, we haven't even spoken about those formulae yet. We will on the course in due time, but there are no regular payments. Okay, so they want you to use compound interest. Okay, so A equals P 1 plus I to the power of n. Now, the difference between this question here and the ones that we have been doing is that the interest rate is 24% per annum compounded monthly. So they've changed the compounding period. Okay, so we know how to deal with that because we spoke about that in our first lesson. Okay, so Tuelo, you're saying why compound interest? When you say you're confused, which formula did you think you should use? Why are you confused that we're using compound interest? Maybe you can explain that to me in the chat or something. So 0.24, and then I've got to remember to divide that by 12, okay, because it's compounded monthly. And whatever I divide I by, I've got to multiply n by. Okay, so here I would end up with 12n. Okay, so that means that when I divide both sides by 5,000, I am going to end up with, on the left, 8 over 5. On the right, I've got 0.24 over 12, which gives us 51 over 50. Which again, if you want to write as a decimal, you can to the 12n. Okay, so now you would say 12n equals log base number. Okay, so what you would have to do here is put this value into your calculator, the log base 51 over 50, and then the number 8 over 5, press equals, and then divide your answer by 12. Okay, so let's see what you guys get when you do that. Ooh, what am I doing? All kinds of weird and funky, horrible things. Okay, hang on. Let's sort this out. There we go, 1,98. Lovely, well done. Okay, so n equals 1,98. That's years. Okay. There we go. Good job, everybody. Well done. Okay, so now we've seen what happens if they change the compounding period, how we would cope with that as well. How are we feeling so far? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Are you okay? Lebogang.
Ma'am, can I ask, do you get penalized if you don't write the years or the percentage sign or the R?
No, no, you don't. So, I mean, with the R, I mean, you are supposed to write it, but again, if you just write the numbers, they're not going to penalize you. So there are no marks on, or no penalty marks in either paper 1 or paper 2 on units. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that.
Teacher Lee, Njabula was just asking in the comments
Mm.
if you can just please repeat the last. It says, ma'am, please repeat the last step. I'm
Sure.
not sure
Okay.
which last step.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so in Jabulo, this is what you would have done. You would have pressed your log button. You would have put in your 51 over 50 and your number, which is 8 over 5. You would put that in. You must press equals. And then you get an answer like 23, comma something, something, something. And then you divide that by 12, because here you got your 12 in front of your n. Okay, so to get n, you must divide by 12. All right, so that's what I was saying. Does that make sense in Jabulo or non-Jabulo? Okay, in Jabulo, yes. Okay, there we go. All right, so we've got time to do a couple. So these are exam questions that we can have a look at now. I just wanted to show you one more thing that was a little bit unusual. Let's just move this down, just in case you see something like this, then you would know how to deal with it as well. Now it asks us to find the time taken for a certain sum of money to double if the interest rate is 12% per annum compounded semi-annually. Now again, Tuelo, can you see it has to be compound interest? They're talking about money doubling. They're talking about the interest rate being 12% per annum compounded semi-annually. It has to be compound interest in this case. So we have to use the formula A equals P1 plus IN. But they've done a little bit of a dirty on us because they haven't told us how much money. They've just said a certain sum of money. And then the other key word here is that it is doubling. Okay. So how are we going to deal with that, Matrix? How would we deal with a sum of money, a certain sum of money, and doubling? What do you think we should do? with our A and our P. Ah, there we go, Lebogang. Good. Well done, everybody. Just have a look. Yes, we can use a variable into causal. Quite right. Okay, and if you have a look, that's exactly what Lebogang and Ayanda have put into the chat. Okay, good. Well done, guys. So it'll be 2x in the end if it's x in the beginning. Okay, it's going to double. And then here we would have 1 plus 0,12 to the power of n. So now again, we are going to divide both sides by the p-value. When we divide by the x, we end up with our number 2. Okay, and x divided by x would give us 1. Okay, so our base would be 1,12. And again, we can just use logs. Oh, sorry. Yes. Lesejo, sorry, everybody. Sorry. I was so hung up on the X and the 2X and the whatever. You're quite right. Sorry. The interest rate, beg your pardon, is 12% per annum compounded semi-annually. Sorry. Just goes to show what happens. Yeah. Quite right, guys. Okay, so we would have, 2x equals x, and then here 1 plus 0,12. Semi-annually, we would divide by 2, so this would be 2n over there. Sorry, guys, you're quite right. Okay. Okay, so now we'd end up with 2, because we divide both sides by x. Our base would be 1 plus 0.12 over 2. 53 over 50. You guys getting that as your base as well? 53 over 50. And then that would be to the power of 2n. Good, well done. Okay, so 2n equals log 53 over 50. And then we would put in our 2. Okay, so again, do the log thing first, and then you would divide through by 2 at the end. Okay, let's just do that quickly. And then you can share what you're getting as an answer for n. There we go. Good. 5,95. Lovely. Well done. Nice. Well done, everyone. Okay, so something that we haven't discussed up to this point, and I suppose I could probably show you here with these exam type questions. Let's just move that down and that down a little bit. All right, is where the marks would be allocated. I'm sorry, I should have shown you that earlier. Good. Yes, Yamkela Luzuko. Good. All right, so 5,95 for that question. Sure. So Lebogang, on your calculator, you're going to press log. Now put in your base, which was 53 over 50. And you're going to put in your number 2. You're going to press equals. Okay, and then it's going to give you some kind of number, whatever that is. Okay, then to get rid of this 2 in the front here. Okay, now you're going to go divide by 2 and then press equals again. Okay. All good. No problem. Okay, let's go down here and have a look at these exam questions. Okay, sorry, Leanne. Okay, so I was just saying, in order to calculate 5,95, this is what you're going to put into your calculator using your log button. Then you must press equals. Then in order to get rid of this, because if you had an equation that said 2n equals 8, your last step would be to divide both sides by 2, isn't it? That's why we're dividing by 2 over here, because of this 2 in front of the n. But you must press equals first. So go log 53 over 50. Your 2 is your number. So that goes into on your log button. So the bit that's colored in, that's where the 53 over 50 goes in. The 2 goes in over here. Press equals. Then you're going to take that answer, leave it on the calculator, divide it by 2, and press equals again. Okay. All right. So there is always a mark allocation for using the correct formula in financial maths. Correct formula. Then there is a mark for substituting into the correct formula. In a situation like this, there would be, and there is always a mark for using logs. And then there would be a mark on your answer. Okay. So let's go and have a look at the exam questions. All right. Let's look at 8.2 first, then we can always go back to 8.1. So this comes out of a grade 12 exam. All right. Question 8.2 says, how many years will it take for an amount of 75,000 Rand to accrue to 116,253 Rand and 50 cents in an account earning interest of 6.8% per annum compounded quarterly? Right, so again, my question to you, Tuelo, in particular, what formula are we using for question 8.2? We'll do 8.1 afterwards. For 8.2, we're starting there. What formula are they implying we should use in 8.2? Accrue means grows into, becomes. So in other words, earns interest and grows from 75,000 to 116,253 Rand and 50 cents. That's what the word accrue means. Exactly, Tuelo. Okay, compound interest. Okay, so choosing the correct formula, very, very important. Okay, A equals P, 1 plus IN. Okay, I'm going to let you guys do this question. And again, when you are done, you can share your answers in the chat. You can DM me or Yolanda. Sure, Caitlin, the word accrue, I'll just write it here on the side. Accrue means to grow in value. Okay, or grows into, or becomes. Okay, so it means its value is increasing. So 75,000 Rand will become 116,253 Rand and 50 cents with interest.
We can do this. Let's go.
Okay, there we go. Tulisiwe, Linda, Lesejo, Ayanda, Vuyo, some nice answers coming through. Well done, everybody. Good, and Tokozo, lovely. Very nice. You guys have got this quickly. That's great. Mbalenhle, lovely. Well done, Mbalenhle. Okamuso, yes. Guguletu, yes. Nice. Okay, so you guys have got yourselves 4 out of 4 there. Okay, Yamkela, just careful your rounding, but yes, that's perfect. Good job. Yes, Bochmelo. Yes, Lizuko. All right. So you certainly seem to have understood that question very nicely. That's great. Your 116253,50 would be your A. Your P would be your 75,000. And here you'd have 1 plus 0,068 compounded quarterly divided by 4 to the power of 4n. Yes, Yamkela. What's your question?
Ma'am,
Hmm.
when do we use simple interest?
Hardly ever. Hardly ever, ever, ever. The only time simple interest really gets used in calculations at high school is when you are doing, what's it called? Where, help me here, Yolanda, where you go and you pay a deposit and then you pay something off. Like if you buy a fridge.
Yes.
What's that called? Yolanda?
Yes, Yolanda is here.
Is Yolanda here? Yes,
Yes.
it's like a lay-by. What's it called? Where, like, if you want to buy a fridge, for example, and you go to Macro and then you pay a higher purchase. Thank you.
Deposits.
Higher purchase.
Higher
There we go.
purchase.
I just couldn't think. Dale's eventually like, higher
The word
purchase.
didn't come.
For God's sake. Oh, goodness. Okay. So higher purchase. That's the only time I can think that you would use simple interest. Okay. Other than that, we wouldn't. Okay. All right, so we're going to divide both sides by 70,000. I just want to do this very quickly with you guys, and then we can say goodbye. 253,50. That would have to be divided by 75,000. And over here, we'd have plus 0.068 over 4, which again, this is what I was talking about. Sometimes we have some weird numbers, 1017 over 1,000 to the 4n. Okay, and then our next step would be 4n equals log base. And then our number, I'm not even going to bother simplifying it. I'm just going to put it in just like that. And your calculator will take it just like this as well. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so you would end up with 1017 over 1,000. Oh, sorry, most of you have sent this answer through already. 116,253.5 over 75,000. Okay, and we end up with that, and we're going to divide it by 4. There we go. Okay, so it becomes 6,5. Okay. Oh, there's the poll. I'll just show you where. Okay, so Caitlin, The 1,000 comes from, if you go on your calculator, Caitlin, 1 plus 0,068 over 4, your calculator will give you 1017 over 1,000. Okay. As a improper fraction. Okay.
It did really well. I'm just
Yeah.
waiting for my poll, guys, but well done.
So, yeah. So again, formula, substitution, logs, answer. Okay.